That wasn't the button I wanted to push at all. Okay, let's go to the chapter 4. We're going to start out with the self-assessment and talk through stuff, and then talk about the quiz. Let's see, analysis. That's the button we want to push. I am recording. Okay, I can look at a motherboard and know the basic parts. I already picked you guys. Know the basic parts. Yeah, 2 questions on the little quiz. You will get a question just like that on your test, guaranteed. That you have to be able to look at the thing and say, yes, I know that is that, that is that. Now, there's 4 people in here. How is only 3 taking the thing?
Casey probably didn't answer that question.
I thought you meant something else by the self-assessment.
Joel. No. This is Joel there.
I will pause. Okay, now that we're all here. So the quiz was intended not really as a grade. You can retake it as many times as you want to. It's a formative grade. Yes, it's in the grade book, but it wasn't there as a grade. I have to give it a grade in order for it to show in the grade book. So feel free to take it as many times as you want to. You get 100. But it was intended to show you the kind of questions that you will need to remember about motherboards when we take the motherboard exam. We are pretty much only going to get through this chapter, maybe the next one, I doubt it, before the final exam. Okay? So the final semester exam. Semester exam will be over chapters 1 through 4. So it'll be overall on the PC, it'll be on power, it'll be on software, it'll be on
just like
this
a written exam?
Yes.
You just want it to be the final exam so you can get rid of this, don't you?
No. I love you guys. Okay, so everybody said that yes to this, but yet this was the most, I think, incorrectly answered question on the quiz. A lot of people got this all wrong. You need to be able to look at the motherboard and know what's what. If you can't look at this and say this is memory, this is the P1 power, this is the SATA port, this is PCI, this is PCI Express 16, this is PCI Express 1, this is the CPU socket, these are the integrated components. If I can't look at the motherboard, know that, you need to come to me during intervention. You should be able to by now by looking at all the motherboards you've looked at. But if you can't, you need to be able to. It's important. And it's not important for the test, although it's on the test. It's important because in order for you to understand how everything hooks up from here on out, everything, again, hooks to the motherboard. It's not part of the PC, right? So how does it hook to the motherboard? You can look at the motherboard sales site, determine the speed and usage of the motherboard. That's just, can I really fit into this PowerPoint, okay? When it comes to speed, can I look at it and say, okay, it's DDR3 1266, okay? Or whatever. That's what I'm talking about, speed of the front side bus. But when I say the usage, I'm saying what components are on there. Can I use this one for a home PC? Will this work for me at home? Well, it's got integrated sound, video, and network. It's got some nice expansion ports. Does it take 4 gig of RAM? Really, most of them are. Really, for home, you're just looking for cheap and integrated. Okay, right? Business is a little faster and integrated. And gamer, not so much integrated, but has the video ports or expansion slots that we need. So that's what it's talking about. Because I am going to say, look at this motherboard. Which one would it be best for? And there's only one right answer. Okay, can you use a home one for business or a business one for home? Yes, but there's only going to be one best answer for those, especially for the gamer one. Okay, I explained the speeds of the motherboard front side bus. Syncs up with the what?
And the clock.
Yeah, it's determined by the clock. The clock sets the speed of the front side bus, but the motherboard itself syncs up with the speed of the
CPU.
RAM, not CPU. Okay, not CPU at all.
CPU is called.
Okay, we wish it could sync up with the speed of the CPU, because then there wouldn't be a bottleneck. Okay, and the bottleneck is the big problem between the CPU and the front side bus. Okay, so I can explain the speeds. There are that mega transfers per second that's listed on the sites. It's actually saying we can get faster than the regular hertz speed, but there's still a front side bus speed. And the big thing to understand there is the difference between that and the CPU speed, and that's where you get the bottleneck. It doesn't want to go. We don't want our CPU to go out through the motherboard to the RAM if we can avoid it, and that's why cache is so important. And we talked about that in the last class. Hopefully, everyone listened to that. Okay. I can use BIOS to configure various parts of CMOS. Everyone should have said yes to that.
I'm awesome.
Okay, that's kind of a back to chapter 1. We use BIOS to set the boot order. There's not a lot of stuff I can set in BIOS. Now, so some really, really advanced BIOS, I can overclock and stuff. But we're not talking about overclocking. We're just talking about, do I understand what BIOS is? How do I get to it? What's the most prevalent key here at National Trail to get into BIOS?
F2.
F2, okay, because all these Dells use F2, but it's usually either delete F1 or F2 to get in BIOS. And can we go through the menus and figure out how to redo stuff? That bothers me that most of you said no. Okay, so here's the new stuff. I can explain what L1, L2, and L3 cache is and why it's important. Why is it important? I just said it, Mr. Joel King.
It helps the speed.
Okay, it helps the speed of the entire system. Not that there isn't memory available, but if the memory's available right here on the chip, and it avoids that motherboard bottleneck, and this kind of memory is faster on top of that, then the whole system goes faster. So just because it's 3.2 gigahertz isn't always the big thing. If it's 3.2 gigahertz with no cache, it would suck. If it's 3.2 gigahertz with tons of cache, it would be way better. I can find the specifications of the CPU on the manufacturer website. Everybody here said yes. I can discuss the different CPU manufacturers and understand how they use different motherboards. Basically, that's talking about the socket. Okay? AMD's use only AMD proprietary sockets. Intel's only use Intel proprietary sockets. So when you got that company, you have to make sure the motherboard fits. Okay? Now in this case, we already started with the motherboards, which is realistic if you were looking to upgrade. If Nico's got a computer at home and he's like, man, this thing stinks, it's really slow, I wish there was something I could do about it. Nico looks in at his motherboard and sees the motherboard type right here, it's right here on this motherboard, and goes up and knows, hey, that's an AMD socket or that's an Intel socket, goes and looks it up online and finds out I've got a 1.6 gig processor and I could put a 2.8 in there. Is there going to be a difference for Nico? Yeah. Okay, and it's especially with this LGA socket, it's so easy to pop those out and put it in. Okay, so you want to be able to make sure you can match those things up. That's the last one in here. So I'm going to go over the quiz. Let's see if I can get the quiz open without showing anybody's grades here. Motherboard quiz. Oh, it's out of analysis. Too fast, too slow.
How did everybody do on the quiz?
Okay, so this is, we got between 75 and 100. Okay, so am I in order of the, okay, so the most incorrectly answered question, the external clock controls the system bus. That's the little, that's a true statement. That's usually a little diode on here that pulses. That was out of chapter 1. That wasn't in this chapter. But it pulses. Let's see if I can figure out which one it is on this one. It pulses and syncs up everything on the bus. I can't really see which one it is on this one. Okay, so that's a true statement. The system clock controls the system bus speed. It pulses and everything syncs around there together. Okay, how many holes? This was out of that link. Wasn't meant to be a thing, but if you had read the article and looked at it, 775 has 775, but how many holes does it have?
None.
0 was the answer, okay?
Oh.
It has 775 connectors, but, so there's none is the answer with this. There are no holes. It's an LGA socket. If it was a ZIF, that would be true. Oh, Mr. Poole, that is so unfair. That was a trick question.
Because you said Z.
Were you listening to it? Okay, so how many holes on the LGA 775 ZIF? I've gone ahead and said wrong, that's got to be false, wrong, that's got to be false. Okay, because I know it's an LGA. If it said PGA, then it would be 775. Okay, so yes, trick question just to see if you're reading. Oh man, that, I believe I got that one wrong. That stunk. Okay, so let's look at this one. This is a trip around the mother. Oh no, this one's just a really easy question. Why did anybody miss this?
Was this the one that you,
A fellow student presented this motherboard as one of his Intel LGA 775 motherboards. How many DDR slots or banks are on this motherboard? Please assume that I am not trying to trick you and that this motherboard does take DDR2 memory.
I thought about that.
Okay, because my students go, oh, how am I supposed to know? I gotta look it up. Okay. I'm just asking you to count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that was not. I can't believe people got that wrong.
The voice of the count died.
Yeah, the voice of the count died.
But the count didn't die.
No, they didn't set the puppet on fire yet.
It just can't talk anymore. Okay, so the answer is 4. Really? I can't believe everybody got that wrong. You're gonna.
Who got that wrong?
I don't know.
Was it yours?
It says yours.
It says that 57% of the class got it wrong.
What?
Our class or
What?
both classes?
Our
57% of the class. But people said 2 and. I don't know. It could be over the course of the whole thing. Let's see. This one, I'm just going to go over this one, and then we're going to move on to the project, just to do one trip around the motherboard. Okay. So, well, here we'll do it in order of the thing down below. So number 9 is pointing to these two things.
PCI Express.
Okay, they're PCI Express. This one's a 1, that one's a 8 or a 16. We don't really know. So 9 is just PCI Express expansion slot. Okay, number 6. SATA headers. Okay, that's where my SATA hard drives connect, or my SATA CD-ROM. Item number 1. I can't see it. What are we pointing to?
Yes.
Okay, so what kind of socket is there? Because there it says one of them is not present on this motherboard, because I wanted you to make sure you knew which kind. So what kind of socket is it? Okay. Which kind?
LGA.
It's P.
PGA?
Yeah.
That's a PGA socket.
Right.
Okay.
No hook.
So item 1, right there, is it an Intel compatible CPU socket or an AMD compatible CPU socket? It's AMD. Okay. Okay, item number 10. Item number 10. What are all these things?
They are the back panel.
Back panel connectors. Okay, so let's see. Back panel connectors. Next one is item number 4, which points to this blue one right here that if you don't know, you could have skipped it and come back and figured it out, but what is this?
It's word drive.
No, it's the IDE.
It's the IDE connector, or PATA. Those are synonymous, remember. IDE and parallel ATA. So these are SATA, these are the new ones. These are PATA or IDE connectors. Okay, item number 5.
That's the P1.
That's the P1 power plug. Item number 8.
That's the PCI.
Regular old PCI connectors. PCI expansion slots. Item number 2.
Memory.
Memory, there's my RAM slots.
They're purple.
You just
RAM slots, there we go. And then, not present in this picture is an Intel compatible CPU socket. Okay, these are obviously going to be there's a lot of matching on there. This is not a 1-point question. It's worth 5 times or 6 times more, depending on what I give the weight to it, than a regular question. So if on the test you get this wrong, you're going to get more than 1 point off. Okay. So because there's, I mean, you might just miss part of it, but you're still not going to do that well. Okay, so let's see.
What's number 7? Out of curiosity.
7. What is number 7? It's pointing to right here.
That's the front side of
Oh, I thought it was
Or
pointing
no,
to the
it's
yellow
right.
things. Like those little.
Oh, it is. Okay, it's pointing to these yellow things. Okay, you're right. What is number 7?
USB headers?
No.
No, I can't see it.
Those are our front side panel connectors. So if we had, that's what, you'll have a cable that goes to here,
I did not
into the
know-
USB and that kind of stuff.
did
Okay.
not even know
So
this
there's
thing
some
has
kind of
that.
cable that goes from your motherboard to the front panel stuff. Like my computer, I have on top of it, this is my computer at home, I've got an external SATA connection, I've got 2 USBs, I've got headphone, mic, I've got a FireWire, all that's on top of my PC, and basically the case came with cables that plug into the front panel headers.
Are those cables like ATX standard?
They are standard cables that go to whatever, you know, like the external SATA one just plugs into a SATA one.
Yeah.
The USBs just plug into whatever, you know, those might be USB headers right there. And then the ones that work, the power ones are just little pins that you go slip it over the stuff. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, they're standard, and most PCs, except for like these Dells, have a very non-standard. This Dell has just one big wire that plugs in right here that all those things do, which is why you can't use that case for anything else, and you can't put this motherboard in anything else. They are made to go together and not be upgraded, which kind of stinks because those are decent cases, but they're unusable really for anything else. Okay, let's move on from here to our project and talk about the project, because next week you guys are going to be working on the CPU project. Okay, number one, you are from Intel or AMD. Okay, you're a salesperson again. Don't read that. Okay, so you're either from Intel or AMD, and it depends on what motherboard you had. Nico, which socket did you have last time on the motherboard?
Shoot, I had the Intel, so.
Okay, so if you had Intel LGA sockets, you are from Intel. Okay, selling us CPUs that go to the motherboards that you presented in the last one. Okay, so you're not from BioStar, you're not from, let's see, where was Nico from last time? Nico was from ECS. You're not from ECS, but you're selling us 2 Intel chips that go in those ECS motherboards. Okay, and if, like, I think you had to find a new gamer board, if your board didn't fit the specs and you had to find a new board, you need to make sure you get that done. Okay, so for this project, you're your sales rep from either Intel or AMD, which is based on the socket type for your motherboard. I already said that. Presentation is based on those motherboards that you already gave. Presentation time, 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so you're presenting 2 CPUs from one manufacturer. You're from Intel, and you're going to sell us your home, a CPU for the home PC and a CPU for the gamer PC. Okay, so you want to give us the fastest available one for your gamer. This does not say most expensive. This says fastest. Okay. Don't look at price for the gamer one. We want you to go and look at this comparison and say, the newest one doesn't mean the fastest. Okay, you would think the newest one would, but it does not. Okay, so the fastest you can find is that fit the socket of your gamer motherboard, and the least expensive one you can find for your home PC. Okay, saying that I'm trying to build this really inexpensive PC for my sister to take to college, and how cheap can I do it? Okay. The idea is that we're going to see the difference between the different CPUs and why purchasing them can be confusing. So to cover your PowerPoint, a background of your company, I would like to get a pretty good background, realizing that we're going to hit 3 people from Intel and 3 people from AMD, and by the time you're done, you guys should have said relatively same things, okay? You have to give us a background on your motherboard that you're giving us. So you're going to bring that slide from your motherboard one and say, hey, you asked me to give you a CPU that goes with the ECS, blah, 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 which has a LGA 775 socket and takes these compatible CPUs. With a nice picture of the motherboard, and you're going to give us an overview of the motherboard. Brief overview, but make sure we understand what CPUs go for, okay? And then the next slide will be, and I'm bringing you today the Intel, whatever, CPU. And when you go over the CPU, you need to make sure you talk about the CPU clock speed, what bus speeds it supports, what kind of cache it has, obviously what the kind of socket type is, how many processors it has, and anything else worth noting about your processor that makes it better. For instance, you're doing an LGA one that has an integrated video controller versus an LGA one that does not. Obviously the one with the integrated video controller is better, right? Because if I've got one of those LGA motherboards that has a video connector on the back that says specifically video if supported by CPU, don't give us a CPU that doesn't support video, because then we will have to buy a video card. Okay. So how much it costs, where you get it from with the link again, the link should work, make sure you test it, okay, and then a works cited slide in the end. It's going to be really easy for you guys to put together in the weeks that I'm gone. I probably will give you a couple little mini lessons, like 15-minute lessons over CPU stuff, if I get a chance to make them this week, okay? And I want you to upload the progress at the end of every class. Just like you were supposed to do last time, okay? I am not printing them out, you are, okay? So when I go down here and look at the CPU section, The presentation rubric, please print out. Please reference it while you're making your PowerPoint. And I expect that Monday that we come in to do presentations to see them filled out, sitting here and graded at the beginning of class. These presentations, we should be able to get through all of them the very first class. If you have questions while I'm on base, please email me. You may not get the answer in 5 minutes, but you will get the answer that day, okay? Because I check a lot, it'll come up on my phone, all that good stuff. Okay, I've got some other links down here for you guys. There's a list of all from that I pulled off of Wikipedia of all the different sockets. It shows the supported bus speeds over here. It shows whether it's PGA or LGA. It says how many pins it has. Okay, so I've got some links. Did that open a new window? So there's the socket list, which came out off of Wikipedia. I need to look and make sure I've got it updated. And then there's some charts from Tom's Hardware, which compares CPUs based on specific software usage. Okay? So if I go down here and I want to compare all the CPUs and I know I'm going to be a gamer, so I'm going to go down to Crysis 2 and pick that one out, it's going to tell me the order of the CPUs by speed with this particular game. Realizing, look where the first one is. That's the first AMD. And I said this in the video the other day. The Intels are currently faster. They're not crazy faster. That's not way faster. I mean, you could barely tell the difference between the fastest Intel Core i7 and the fastest AMD one, okay? And the price is a third less, or a little more than that. If I can get it at Amazon at $319, see if that's actually true. And this says I can get this one at Amazon at $219. That's going to be one of the things. Okay, so that is $319, and this one is $219. Okay, so one of the things you're going to see that comparable stuff is usually cheaper with AMD. Although right here, that's just a little bit faster, and it's saying $199. That's actually abnormal. You don't see a lot of ads for AMD, which is why AMD is usually the less expensive option. But you can see when we get down here, AMD for a long time was just as fast as Intel, but the newest Intel processors that have come out are faster than what AMD's come out with. So you've got that chart to look at as well. And then I've got links to both AMD and the Intel site, as well as a thing on understanding cache, and then a example presentation of a CPU socket here if you're so inclined and want to look at an example from last year that I recorded. Questions on the project? It's gonna be, I think this one's easy. I wish I had less time for you to do this one. Normally this is a project that I do when I'm gone only 2 days, and really you guys, I'm gonna be gone 2.5 because Friday's a half day anyway. So you guys should definitely be done with it and be able to do a good job with that project the number of days. Okay.